There's more dopamine in the food experience as I see it, smell it, get greeted by you. I take a bite, the chew, the mush, the savor, the swallow, the linger. There's more dopamine than a pure shot of heroin or morphine.
So we're all legal drug dealers, basically.
You want loyalty? Forget the app. Create an experience that is so compelling from entry to exit, drive through to drive out, that I can't wait to come back.
Today's guest is Rudy Miick. He spent over 4 decades in the hospitality industry, guiding operators and executives through growth, cultural change, and the challenges that come along with each. Our paths actually crossed at a conference last year where 2 strangers ended up having a deeply personal and honest conversation about an industry we both love. In today's episode, I get the privilege to continue that conversation. We dive into the core issues facing the restaurant industry right now. How do I rebuild trust, empower managers, and create a culture resilient enough to withstand the harsh realities of the industry? This conversation's more than just managing a restaurant. It's how do you transform it from the inside out? With that, I give you my conversation with Rudy Miick. Rudy, I appreciate you coming on today.
Here we are reinventing ourselves, man. Pandemic, change, politics, economy, the ever unfolding caterpillar to butterfly metamorphosis of what am I next?
And yet some things remain the same. You and I bumped into each other at a conference, had breakfast together, and the rest is history.
Well, you know what's interesting? The pure science, the physiology, and at the atomic structure, molecular structure, a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, they actually have the same DNA. The caterpillar that goes into the cocoon or chrysalis actually will have the same DNA strand as it turns into a butterfly. So even though they're completely different bodies, right, there's still this genetic code.
I gotta ask. So it makes sense to me, right? You have your DNA, and it evolves over time. Where are you going with that?
What if? I mean, you're a parent of some pretty young kids, right? And so you're modeling every minute of the day, and they are from even pre-birth. They're hearing sounds, they're seeing light and shadow before they're even out as a human being. Now they land, and all they are is one big computer and a poop, right? Just a poop machine and an uploading computer just going, right? Give me more information. Give me more information. And if I pay attention to the info, I keep evolving. And I have a little bit more gray hair than you do. At the same time, in both stages now of our lives as adults, what does it mean to keep evolving and keep that DNA strand alive and evolving? So presumably I can get smarter to the day I die, right? I mean, why not, right? Or more awake, more aware. And so here come your kids. Then there's you. Then there's right? I mean, it's just this road as opposed to, oh, I'm done. I think I better retire, right? Or exit or whatever, on to the next thing. What if that entrepreneurial spirit carries into our 80s and 90s or hundreds and 10, right?
Well, that'd be nice. I'd take that. But let me ask you this. Does that put you in the camp of nurture? We're all taking in information constantly that is, changing who we are, or nature? We were born with the DNA like the caterpillar, and we're going to be a butterfly from day one.
I personally have spent a huge amount of time on that question over my whole life. And I am still in a place of it's a both and rather than a neither or, is wherever I am on the nature place, how do I, with consciousness, mindfulness. How can I evolve my skill set? So you're a tech guy. I'm not, right? At the same time, I can over time, as opposed to saying, oh man, I don't understand this, I give up. I go, wait, let me understand this a little more, right? And be interested. I still may never get to play at the level you're playing as an inventor and as a CEO of a thriving new company in an industry segment that I may not play in, but I can be a thriving, growing, more educated all the time participant in your world, and vice versa. I've got some skills and tools that you don't have, but we can both keep growing. The choice is, do I choose to, right? And man, talk about an industry question. That is for all of us to take a look at.
The one that I always get a kick out of is, we as parents, we all sat here and said, oh, it's all nurture. It's how you bring them up. I remember, hand pureeing the baby food so we get them the right nutrients, just because it's so their surroundings. And then, you wake up after a couple of kids and you realize I had no say whatsoever. They were who they were when they were born. And I can ever so slightly, modulate it. I could probably screw it all up, right? You could probably raise a horrible kid, but who they are is who they are when they're born.
I wonder almost if what you're alluding to, as I was listening to you, it struck me, what if like a crab or a snake or something that outgrows their skin, right? The picture that came to mind was a case. But what if I outgrow the case, right? So you're right, I fit into this thing. At the same time, I can evolve and expand. And within that DNA structure or nature structure, how do I perform? Dare I go here? I don't say this often. Somehow you've inspired me. I had a sister who was a year and a half younger than me. And she had real severe challenges intellectually, mentally. And my parents were told she'd be not on this earth by the time she was 12. Well, she lived till she was 60. And she kept being told, you're only this. You're going to work, putting little tchotchke buttons on something, right? In a public service deal for 20 cents an hour. She actually was in the first gen of what McDonald's started 20 years ago as a McJobs program. She was in the first gen of those programs. And when she started, she could barely talk to anyone. She ended up 12 years later being a trainer of not one, but of 2 McDonald's units, right?
That's the story of restaurants. I mean, this is America's first job. This is where we learn a skill set.
Exactly. And here is a human being told, no, you'll never. And through just this amazing tenacity and heart, just pure heart, she just became this vibrant, incredible human being that created loyalty in a quick service restaurant, right? Guests would literally come and just to say hi to Tony. Like, woo,
that's
go figure.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so, nature, nurture, I think it's a both and.
Well, I think where it really goes to is this. If you're an organization, when I ran restaurants, am I growing everyone or am I self-selecting for the right people that have, traits that will work well with me? I know that I self-selected. I found people that worked well with me, and that became people that worked well within my organization. And we self-selected for certain traits, but that's limiting in the number of people. So, you go to this nurture nature thing. It's really a question of, do you set up in an environment as an organization that can nurture just about anybody into your organization? Or do restaurants self-select for us ADHD, creative, wanting to be on our feet? I mean, you've been doing this for 45 years. What do you see that works? How do you view that?
Well, God, I love your question and the way so on one level, again, I'm likely more a both and guy than an either or guy. But to your point, there's something to be conscious of. Again, back to awakeness. What is my brand? What is the culture that I build within my brand, right? And so how do I, as a leader, lead? Yes, I may find and may interview even for more similar personality traits than dissimilar, more alike than diverse. However, within explicit diversity, whether it's gender or ethnicity or age or education or whatever it might be, there are in those very diverse realms, any diversity level we could talk about, going to be consistent personality traits that still connect, right? So, how do I put creativity or consistency of application into play out of this case, right? The case that I got born with, that I have no control over whatsoever. At the same time, I evolve a personality of an awareness, or some way Matt's opened this thing up, which I think is what restaurants do. I had no idea I even had a skill, or I have no idea I even had a passion for. And all of a sudden, somebody smiles at me and says, "Thank you." And I've never had anybody do that in my life. And all of a sudden, it's a thank you for cooking, or it's a thank you for serving, or it's a thank you for making. And all of a sudden, my life is lit up, right? And we impact lives. It doesn't matter what segment of the industry we're in. It is suddenly this learning. I've worked with so many clients over the years and so many different concepts that we realize, oh my God, my restaurant looks like a restaurant. Oh, it's Italian. Oh, it's Mexican. Oh, it's a pizza joint. Oh, it's a sandwich joint. Except what it really is a leadership lab. It's actually a place that people learn how to thrive, or maybe we allow them to just get by. My hope is we create a culture that lets people thrive and keep saying, "Hey, Matt, I want to do that. Hey, what's it going to take?" I mean, I can only imagine hearing you say this at some point in your early 20s, maybe even your teens. I certainly said it. It was that light bulb went off for me, and I went to the owners of the place I was working. I went, "I want to be your partner in 4 years. I want to be your partner in 2 years. How do I do that?" Right? I want to do what you're doing. How do I do that?
You know, it's so funny when you go back and look at all of this. People used to ask me, what business I was in. You're in the restaurant business, the food business, hospitality. It's like, no, I am in the business of taking 19-year-olds that decided not to go to college and to turn them into CEOs of their own mini $1 million business. That's it. I need to create those people.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it always felt like, in the restaurant industry, and I'd love your take on this. This could be incorrect. For years, it was about cherry picking people and mentoring them. We've noticed Billy, he's great. I'm taking him under my wing. And that's very us selecting a person and choosing to equip them, but not building an organization that elevates everyone. And it feels in recent years, I look at Jason Berkowitz at Arrow Up Training. How do we equip everybody to rise to the top instead of arbitrarily picking people? Is that how you've seen it evolve? Is that where the industry was? Is that where we're going? Or am I just imagining?
That's where our industry could be. Without exception, in my experience, we've done hundreds of QSRs, we've done hundreds of fast casuals, we've done more fine dining and beard award restaurants than I can count. In any of those segments, the process, in my experience, historically was, we're looking for that person, regardless of age or gender or however they might identify. We're looking for that person with the light in their eye. And at some point, I, like you just named, realized, wait a minute, across the board, the complete diversity of the company is, here are opportunities, up to and including getting raises, up to and including any sort of jobification. Oh, you want a pay raise? Or, hey, when are you going to get a raise? We have certification programs in place for you to learn, we would call it cross training, right? Keep learning, and with every certification level, you get a pay bump, right? And then also, here's open book management, profit sharing to top and bottom line. And if you want to if that's interesting to you, and you want to invest your time to learn about how to read a P&L, build a P&L, hit a P&L, you can be part of that program. And guess what? It's all volunteer. So what ends up happening is creating an environment, like you're saying, that says, if you want to play, this is a place you can do that. And we'll accept anybody that performs. So it's still meritocracy, but it's wide open to anyone. Oh, you want to learn about food cost? You want to learn about prime costing? You want to understand triangulation of inventory control, right? As opposed to just counting inventory, which is an asset count and not a management system, right? You want to learn about that? And if anybody goes, wow, that's kind of cool, great, here's the next class, sign up.
So where do we go wrong as an industry? Because you correct me if I'm wrong, we have one of the lowest retention rates of employees.
This is the sad part. So we tend still, and there's lots of reasons for this, I think, but we tend still to be a very hierarchical industry, that whatever your or my face looks like as the quote owner, the owner knows better, or the manager is a cop and police, and you're not. So I'm just looking for a body. And this could easily turn into the segue into tech and AI for sure. And robotics is, oh, you're just a cog in a wheel, and I'm the one who knows. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. And that hierarchical model, there are some companies out there doing it that are making double-digit profit, but the median net profit or EBITDA in the industry is still 3%. And you and I are running in the mid-20s. So explain that, right? Why, let's see, a hierarchy with one boss and one visionary is running at 10 or 12, maybe. Most are at 3 or 4. And we can run a more open program and run in double digits with 100 sets of owners' eyes.
I think the real question is this: does everybody get bad to the bone as their ringtone, or is that a specific person? And if so, who gets bad to the bone as the ringtone?
Sorry about that. That's my low-tech world. I forgot to turn my phone off. And bad, you can only imagine, knowing me, bad to the bone is my predominant ringtone.
Oh, I love it. Everyone gets it. It's just a constant reminder through the day.
Everybody gets bad to the bone. There are a handful of other unique tones, but bad is good.
So let me steel man the case on the other side. And I don't believe this, but I'm curious your thoughts. We have a lot of rugged individuals in the restaurant industry. I was a firefighter and I want to open a firefighter sandwich shop. And I've got a vision for what it's going to be. And I may self-select people. I may make really bad decisions, but the net result of it is it's just a lab of just creative experiments that are going on, which is why we have this flourishing diversity of different restaurants. If we did everything perfectly, do we just end up in a homogenized world where everything feels the same? Is that the same industry?
I don't know that I would agree with your hypothesis of success or one model being homogenous and boring. Although even as I'm hearing myself play back what you just said, the age-old model is dead. It doesn't work, and we've got a high turnover and fluctuating prime costs to prove it. Lawsuits, unions, all kinds of stuff. Just so I'm going to contradict myself. You might be right.
I think those two tie together well. Yeah, you may have a very unique industry, but it's an industry that's failing, and that uniqueness is going out of business. And unfortunately, it's not getting better decade after decade. Instead, on a long term, it's continuing to fail.
Dude, I love the way you posit a question, the way you posit an idea. Where I can join you, I think, or what I'm translating is on one massive level, whether it's how we make decisions about the next equipment purchase or the next POS or the next app or the next tech, or what the evolution of our menu might be. Here's where I think the magic still does occur, is somebody has an idea for, to your point, a sub, right? A sub sandwich or a tapas bar or some steakhouse, whatever it might be, right? Let's do organic something, right? Vegan only, organic, under $10 check average, right? Whatever it might be. And we find somewhere, somehow, the magic to make it work. And maybe it's only 1 out of 100, but the magic occurs and we evolve, right? So there's that evolution thing again. And more almost by accident, or what we typically will call hard work, and just the vision of the owner, right, or the founder or the founding partners. But I do think it's way, as good as that story sounds, it's really bloody, because 85 to 90% of the people that try that die, right, in a year to 2 years at the outside. So here's the counter is, okay, here's my idea, but now what tech can I use to improve the performance from day one? What management systems can I put in place that actually inspire and integrate people from day one? How do I coach them in a way that includes instead of puts people down, right?
I think you skipped a step. You said a word at the beginning of this, and I wrote it down because it's the first time I've heard anybody say this. Awakeness. And I think I want you to define it, but I think you used it in terms of just, awake to who you are as a brand. It should guide all of your decisions. Walk me through awakeness. And is it awakeness as to who you are that drives all of those decisions you just said?
The short answer is yes. We could go to this yogic, soft, what is perceived as soft, let's meditate, let's be vegetarians, let's whatever, of being mindful, being conscious, being awake. So awake and mindful create awareness. The $50 version of that in 2025 is being emotionally intelligent. So I've got IQ, I've got EQ, right? EQ being emotional intelligence, IQ intelligence, as intellectual intelligence. But the awareness is, here's an exercise I used to do at UCLA at the hospitality program there years ago, is imagine my restaurant and imagine a guest. I'm a guest. And imagine I walk up to the restaurant. We'll even start at I'm still at home or I'm at the office, and I suddenly think of food. What brand do I think of? Which location? What food type do I think of? How do I get first drawn to you? But the exercise then is, okay, well, what am I feeling as I'm driving to you or sitting on a train or an L or whatever it might be to get to you? Nowadays, an Uber or a Lyft or whatever it might be, right? But now I get there. What am I feeling as I'm walking on the sidewalk to get to the door? And is the sidewalk clean? What does clean mean? Is the gutter on the sidewalk clean? I swear to God, literally that specific.
Hey, now it's on our checklist. Jimmy John's every morning, sweeping out front, doing the windows.
100%. So I go to the door and I grab the door handle. Is it sticky?
Did I unlock the second door, or did I only open one of the two?
Bingo. Is the door handle loose? If it's glass, are there fingerprints all over it, right? The second I pull the door open, what do I smell? What do I hear? What do I see? How am I greeted and how quickly, right? All the way to the table, or the counter, or the nowadays it would be, where's the go? And maybe I'm just walking in to get the bag, right?
What do you hear? What are the senses when you walk into a great restaurant?
Well, I could certainly be egocentric enough to answer that for you, and I definitely have an opinion. But what a lovely question you just asked for your listening and viewing audience. For everybody listening and watching, imagine that. Notice, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's happening in my mouth? I mean, is it watering already? Right? What can I, right? Just that thought.
Well, and going back to your awakeness, I imagine that's the stuff that, when you walk in your own door every day, you're not awake to. You sleepwalk through the door in the morning.
Well, and how many operators, notoriously, we're horrible at this. We come in through the back door. We don't come in through the front door, right? And if we sell beer, I walk in the morning before the place is open, and it smells of stale beer on the carpet, right? Or it smells of old fryers, and right, nobody changed the oil, or God help us, whatever. Doesn't matter, liquor or not, makes no difference, right? So the awareness becomes, what does clean smell like? What does aromatic smell like, right? Depending on what I sell, right? I mean, we've all heard stories of or experienced the bakery that has a fan blowing out, right? Blowing out cinnamon rolls.
Jimmy John's, we literally had a neon sign that said free smells, because we break bread every day. You walked in and you had that beautiful smell. We've got a chain restaurant by us that I really like. But this location, you can walk in and you can smell the grease trap. And we do not go because the smell.
Yeah, exactly. So two things to share. It's almost cliched. Ask Rudy Miick the definition of the word restaurant, right? A place one goes to be restored. It's not I go to eat. Oh, I go to be fed. No, the root of the word is a place one goes to be restored. And restaurateur is literally restorer of soul. And I swear to God, right? You're in Chicago. You could be a little deli cart on the corner, or a broad or an Italian beef sandwich or whatever. It could be a $3 thing on the corner, and that person is restoring the soul of the people that stand in line waiting, right?
How much of restoring the soul is the food versus the experience?
So there you go back to awareness. Here's part two. The smell, the visual. So most of us as operators know that we eat with our eyes and our nose first, right? I would include ear as well, that I hear the sound of a well humming restaurant. And again, the check average, the segment of the industry is irrelevant, right? There is the hum of a well-run restaurant. There is a sound of it, a resonance, like a pitch, right? A440 is what symphonies tune to, right? And bands tune to in the West. There is a pitch in a well-run restaurant that runs. So that pitch is hitting no matter what the music is that's playing, if there's any. But also I smell, then I see. Okay, here's this other amazing fact of what our bodies do. Normal human beings, average intelligence. The endorphin hit when I think of a Jimmy John's sandwich, right, run by Matt and his team, and the door handle's tight, and every touch point is bam, it's just right there, right? Endorphins hit, dopamine occurs at a higher level than a pure shot of heroin or morphine. There's more dopamine in the food experience as I see it, smell it, get greeted by you, orders supported, here's my food, I see it, I take a bite, the chew, the mush, the savor, the swallow, the linger. There's more dopamine than literally a needle full or a syringe full of heroin.
So we're all legal drug dealers, basically.
We are basically, so you want loyalty? Forget the app. Create an experience that is so compelling from entry to exit, drive through to drive out, that I can't wait to come back, no matter what the check average is.
Biggest difference between us and drug dealers is I think the margins on dealing drugs are better.
Yeah. From what I've been told. Who am I to?
Well, I always think of, the more experiential dining, your fine dining. Me and my wife are going out for our dates, and again, coming from the QSR industry, we always looked in envy at the real restaurants. I've never heard anybody talk about the pitch of a restaurant. What is the pitch when I walk into dinner? What's it sound like on my Friday night when it's running well?
When it's running well, it's like, I'm not a mechanic, so I struggle here with metaphor, but I would say it's like a well-tuned machine, like a really fine-tuned car. There's no missing cylinders, right? First of all, it's not good, right? It's humming. There is a hum. It is, in my experience, about right at A440, maybe up to a D. What would be the D? And I don't know what the resonant pitch of that is, but I have a musical background. It's one of my other life stories. And so for some reason, I notice this is the second somebody drops a plate, there's silence, right? For a millisecond. And then there'll either be laughter and applause, or somebody's hurt and we'll go help them, whatever. But there is a break in the sound. When something occurs, we're in a rush. The tables don't get turned. The food is now out. Your very app of, hey, do we have bread? Are we in time with the product so that we can keep up with the rush, right, of the production? When the production stops, suddenly the pitch drops. It doesn't go up, it drops. And it changes. Yeah. The same way. So like when we in full service restaurants, but the same would be true even in QSRs or fast casual, is think of, for the audience, think of this. We'll, to have restaurant eyes, here's awareness again, have good eyes to see the tables, see the room, see all the people. It can get really difficult to do that. So instead of watching everybody, think about what is common movement. What do I want to see? I want to see people leaning forward, smile on my face, bite. People are giggling, laughing, going, whoa, toasting. There's glasses in the air, whether it's Coke or a beer or a glass of wine. There's leaning in, there's laughter, there's smiles. The food's under us. We're leaning in. Here's uncommon. I look up. I'm trying to find, I pigeon my head. I'm looking for somebody. I push a plate away, or I push the bag away. That's uncommon. I push my chair back, right? I do some movement that is uncommon. That person needs something right now. Okay. If you get 6 of those people, the tone in the room changes.
And I assume that just like music, there's a cacophony of noises that are playing the music of the restaurant, that it's contagious.
100%, right?
You can have anxious music that makes everyone else anxious, makes them perk up.
Right, exactly. And so a lot of times, right, I mean, if we get specific, I'm sucking right into what you're saying here, that what's the right pitch of music in the dining room as well, right? And early on, I was trained to have it be just under the conversation level. And the busier the restaurant gets, of course, you're going to turn the music up, but always below the tone of voice, right? So that what is happening is the beat is moving the room without interrupting the contact. So those are all touch points of the brand that are just as much a recipe as how much mayo or mustard or salami goes on the sandwich, right? It's exactly the same, and we can architect and design every detail. Again, doesn't matter the concept, and it doesn't matter the budget. It's just, okay. And to your point, the chair sliding across the floor. Do we have carpet? Is it hardwood? Is it concrete? Maybe it's polished concrete. Who cares? The pans that we're using, the fryers that we're using, all of those sounds, it's an orchestra. You're 100% right. I mean, it's so fun, man. When the restaurant's humming, it literally is humming. And so we're in the rush. We talk about having fun at work. Well, you and I both as owners know we're not talking about fun like spitwads and practical jokes on a hotline. We're not going to throw somebody into the fryer or onto a burner on a stove. That's not what we mean. What we mean is, oh my God, look at this. We did this. We just got through 150 covers without a hitch, right? Or 200 or 500 or whatever our number is, right?
There's nothing better than being part of a well-moving team in harmony, just executing.
And we now add that to, and each of us restored the soul of these people are leaving not only belly full and mouth lingering full, but they feel better as human beings leaving our restaurant, whether they're picking up or whether they actually dined in, right? Irrelevant, doesn't matter. And I can remember some of the drive-through coffee concepts early on, of one of the brands out there was their goodbye greeting was "See you tomorrow."
That's great,
right? Sincerely, right? Thanks so much. See you tomorrow, right? Just take the extra second to make actual eye contact, because that's all I've got, right? And how's my tone of voice on a headset? Because you don't even see me, right? And who knows, with the tech coming, I mean, we're gonna have virtual people walking out into the drive-throughs to go, hey, how are you? Right? I mean, I can't wait. I'm excited for that.
What do you love most about this industry?
All the things that we're talking about. What I really cherish and what we still bring to every single project is the broad concept of a great time. And for the price, the greatest product we can possibly deliver for this price. And then defining what is that, right? And then the actual delivery of it, oh my God, right? Is there anything better?
When did you get the bug? When was that moment that you're like, I really like this industry. This is my place. This is what I want to do.
There were three or four times that this occurred. The two that I'll choose to share in this moment. As a young guy, I'd worked in restaurants a little bit, but certainly not with any sort of career focus. But I had an opportunity to spend an entire season at the Breakers Hotel in West Palm, right? One of the premier hotels in the world, and still is, right? And in that, how I got to be there that long is a whole story in itself, set it aside. But I was not in the food business. And I got to be pretty good friends, even though I was 18 and a half. I wasn't quite 19 yet. I got to be pretty good friends, better than acquaintances, with the resident manager, who was, I don't know, 55 probably. I mean, he seemed old to me at this point. Now he'd be a young guy. But at any rate,
everybody seems old when you're 18.
100%. Anyway, I was walking down the hall with him of one of the hallways of the hotel. And I just said, God, how do you do this? Everything is, I mean, the flowers are incredible, and every one of your team knows my name. And they knew it the first day. How does that happen, right? It's every touch point was all the things we're talking about. He looks me in the eye. He stopped, actually. We stopped in the hall. He turns to me and looks me in the eye. And he goes, well, Rudy, it's easy. The answer is yes. What's your question? And I literally, light bulbs went off. I went, I am so out of here. I am going to hotel school. I'm going back to Hawaii, which is where I was raised. I'm going back to Hawaii, getting into University of Hawaii's hospitality program. I'm going to be a hotel guy. I'm just like over just that fast.
And what was the greatest misconception? So you go back, and then what's the hard truth you learned?
Well, the hard truth in those days was, in 6 months of hotel training, I balanced the night audit twice. So it was in those days, there were mechanical registers, right? There was no such thing as a POS. It was a mechanical register about 5 feet long, literally, dimensionally, and so many buttons and knobs and stuff. And so it was, well, maybe I'm in the process. I got into restaurants a little bit within the hotel training, and I reveled in the hotel stuff. The restaurant stuff just sizzled, right? But then a little bit later, about a year and a half later, I was waiting tables at this restaurant, and we were serving prime beef from a company in those days called Verge Davidson Chudikoff. And this is really long ago, in the 70s, right? That's how old I am. And we were flying beef in 3 days a week into this little ski town in southern Colorado. Flying beef in
the 70s.
In the 70s.
These are prop planes.
100%, right? And jet props, commercial planes, flying beef in. Anyway, I had this couple. I had a deuce. I was waiting tables. Bottle of wine, 2 prime steaks, baked potato, salad bar, blah, blah, blah. The whole bill came to $35, right?
Oh.
Imagine that. Now you can't even get a steak for that, right?
In fairness, I think gas was like 60 cents a
Yeah,
gallon at the
exactly.
time. So
If that. At any rate, literally the whole check, I'll never forget this. Two top, they finished dinner, present the checks, $35. The guy left me $100 tip, $100 bill. I chased him out the door, literally, sir, you made a mistake. You left this $100 bill on the table. He goes, kid, you just gave us the best service experience of our lives, and we eat all over the world. Right? We're from LA. We eat all over the world. You just gave us the best dining experience of our lives. You deserve every penny of that. I literally took the money, thanked him profusely, turned around, walked up to the owner and said, I want to be your partner within 2 years. How do I do that? And he said, this is the business I'm going to be in. Because it was so simple. It just treat these people the way you want to be treated. And there's this panache of the twist of a wrist to pour wine or to drop the plate on the table and just nudge it, to put a coffee mug down and then turn the handle to 430, right? Just that little nuance, so simple. And I'm making, I had my first mortgage that same year, and my monthly mortgage was $50, and I made $100 on one table, right? It's like, oh, this is the career for me. I'm going in this business.
well, and there's something to be said about the fact that 50 years ago, two strangers can just connect and have an intimate night, right? That both remember forever. And yet it ends there, but the memory lives on.
Yeah, 100%.
What
Right?
That was his greatest dining experience. What's your greatest dining experience? Take me back. Give me that. Paint me a picture of the greatest dining experience you've had.
Well, one leaps off the page. I've had many in various places all over the world that are just have been mind blowing. And that place of just the dopamine hit is just, it's joy. Right.
And we should already preface that, you don't need to say it's the Jimmy John's when you came to mind, and we blew you away. I know that's number one. So we'll talk about what number two is.
Well, I did do a mystery shop on your restaurant when you were just a youngin', right?
It would have changed your life. I understand that.
Yeah. So in all seriousness, there still is, but in the day, Joaquin Spakal in LA, who's just such a brilliant chef. And he had opened, this was in the late 80s, and my oldest daughter was just a tiny baby, right? In fact, still actually just barely out of a bassinet, right? Just barely able to move. And my wife and I chose to go to his signature restaurant, which is Patina, and in LA on Santa Monica Boulevard. And lunch was $350 just for lunch, right? So it wasn't cheap. But we walked in with my daughter. We were, everybody is dressed to the tens, right? Forget nines. They're dressed immaculately. And people literally around us, when we walked in with our daughter, people freaked out. It was like, oh, do we need to move? Literally somebody asked us that. If you're sitting here, do I need to move because you've got a kid? What?
You dropped the decibel level of the entire restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. Touche. Nice retention. Anyway, the service staff didn't blink an eye. They totally took care of us. My daughter Ariel was perfection, right? Not a whimper, not anything. She was just this cool little kid. old enough to be given some food. And literally at the end of lunch, the people around us thanked us for bringing our daughter in, right? So that was unexpected. But of wow, we've never seen a family behave in this way, right? And we were laughing, and I mean, we had just a great time, laughing, giggling, enjoying the food, enjoying the whole experience, and everything was as perfect as it could be. At any rate, my point is that all of these minutia little points were occurring, including my daughter, and we literally got up to go, and for a millisecond, my breath was taken away by the check, right? I was like, okay. But what struck me was as we got up to leave, my body, my thought in my brain and my body was, God, I can't wait to come back. And it's how many times over the years I've shared versions of that story of imagine if we could get every guest, again, whether it's Jimmy John's and a Matt Wampler restaurant, if it's Rudy Miick's restaurant, if it's Patina, whatever it might be, we could get every guest to say, God, I can't wait to come back.
Well, going back to our prior conversation about whether it's the experience or the food and which one, weighs out in your entire story, I never heard what you ordered. I never heard anything about the food. I heard the location, the people, the experience. I think the most interesting part of that is looking forward on the tech side, because, everyone's talking about AI, it's artificial intelligence, but it's an artificial version of the intelligence that you have, and trying to create a more efficient, streamlined business. And so I do want to dive into where technology makes sense in hospitality, because if it's about making great food, I'm sure there's a robotic make line that'll make me a great bowl, but I didn't hear any of that in your story.
I was never a great finish chef, right? I've worked every station in the restaurant, and I've always been a predominantly front guy, even though I've worked every position in a kitchen. And I'm a good line cook, whatever, but the broiler, meat cutter, etc. But to your point, much to the chagrin of operators I've known for years and many, many chefs, is in my early days, I would say this: I want to be aware of every touch point in the restaurant. The food is irrelevant, except it's not. The food is everything, right? So the gift, but in my cockiness as a young guy, I would go, the food actually is irrelevant except for one thing, that whatever our check average is and whatever it is we choose to serve, that it is the ultimate best of class. That's what's important. I could care less what the cuisine is, except whatever we put on the menu has got to be this, because every other touch point is that. And that's how we mitigate risk to be successful instead of fail, is every touch point is thought through. So now bring tech. How does tech support us to 0.1% to an ordering cycle for fewer misses? And AI, oh my God, what an opportunity.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to. I want to kind of just do a thought experiment.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's map out the touch points and go over where those touch points really do need to remain human, that's part of the experience. And I know it varies brand to brand. Let's go full service, not fine dining, but everything from, where I'm going out on a date with my wife, right? Let's map it out. Walk me through it. Where are the touch points that matter most and need to stay human?
What a great question for every operator, right? Within their concept, within my concept, where are those touch points that must remain human? And you hit, that's $1 million question right there. I mean, I'm having dreams about virtual staffing of picture my most perfect host or hostess. What if we actually got to a state that the guest actually has this picture in their mind and a virtual assistant pops up that is the personification of who I would want to see from a guest perspective? How cool would that be?
I'm not sure about that. Like, I'm sure it can happen. I'm just not sure that that's the experience. Like, I can imagine there's a bunch of virtual touch points I have before I go to the restaurant, whether that's digitally figuring out what the menu is, making the reservation, right? Probably calling and talking to somebody about it, confirming it. But, there's still that I walk in and the first person I see, do they know who I am? Do they know what the reservation is? Do they have context? Like, I can see how AI can do a great job of being able to provide the perfect context to that person so that when you walk in the door, just like the breakers, I know your name, I know about you. But man, that feels like an important touch point.
Well, your question is an ultimate question. And there's more than one answer, I think, especially in my brain, and I would bet yours, because I'm thinking of more than one industry segment at any given moment, right? So if I would say this, I would say that the first touch point. So if I'm online ordering or reviewing the menu or directions or whatever it might be, to even get to your restaurant, get to our restaurant, the first piece is how easy is it, right? User nomenclature, user friendly. How anticipatory is it? How easy does it anticipate my next move, right?
You said it earlier. Is my mouth watering on the way there? Am I imagining the food that I'm about to get? Almost the anticipation. How do I create the anticipation?
Exactly. So then, depending on the concept, as I enter a space, whether it's a drive-through pickup or drive park pickup or walk in and sit down, regardless of the concept, right? I think that a touch point that's huge is either the acknowledgement of, hey, I'm here to pick up, or I'm here to seat, or I'm here to order, and stuff as simple as, is there a human being that is making direct eye contact with me? Is there an authentic smile? Is there, wow, Rudy, it's great to see you again. Oh my God, right? If there was the ability to acknowledge, we've got your order, and based on, I'd have no other ticket times that are in this, think of a pickup deal. If there's no other pickups within a 5-minute period, I could ask, hey, are you Rudy? Right? It's so good to see you here. I'm making up the story. You're Rudy, right? Your food's ready, right? Bang, eye contact, authentic smile, some sort of contact. Now, the slippery slope is there might be a generational shift or an attitudinal shift of, I don't want contact, right? The whole point of carryout is, and pandemic residual habit is, I don't want contact. I just want to get my stuff and get out. Well, what is
that goes back to your awakeness, and
bingo.
Awareness of who you are and what it is that you're providing to your customer.
100%. And what if we had a click on here of, I don't care about eye contact. I don't care about a greeting. I just want my food, right? And however we would write that up nicely, right? But if hey, I'd love to be greeted by name. Well, wow, what if we could pull that off with the tech, right? And especially with earbuds and headphones and and whatever the technology is going to be ultimately for us, wherever we're going, to be able to feed, excuse the pun, feed back to us exactly what we ask for or hope for, right? How fun would that be, right? In a fast casual place, maybe again, it's the greeting of the person taking my order on site. Maybe, and again, it's just that. It's just for 1 minute, 2 minutes max. Then what's the second touch point? If I'm going up to a counter to pick up, is somebody going to make eye contact with me, or are they avoiding that? The flip would be, if you're delivering my food, treat the delivery to the table like I'm in a fine dining restaurant. Why not?
Let me ask you this. How much of that awakeness, awareness should be driven by what your customers want versus what you want your brand to be? Because I could imagine that, you could very easily have, let's call it, I order online in a robotic, kitchen makes my food and drops it off via drone. And maybe that's what your customers want. But you're sitting here saying, no, I want to be a community local place that gets everyone together, right? At what point do you allow, who drives the ship? Should it be the customers? Should it be your vision?
So for decades, way before pandemic made culture a driving word in business, right? Years before that, my sense is the business culture, my culture of my business, drives my brand experience. So to your point, from a concept level, if my concept is no human interaction, computer ordered, drone delivered, guess what? I'm going to articulate that as to the best of my ability, little to no human interaction, because that's what my customers want, because that's what my brand is designed to deliver. And so we have a brand customer match. That is the same as the patina thing of going, God, I can't wait to come back. Nobody hassled me. I didn't have to smile at anybody, right? Yay. Somebody else's concept, I want high touch because it's priceless. And if that little bit of engagement can make your day better, some people will say, no, I don't want the contact. That is better for me. Fine. But the culture driving the brand experience, then what I want to do is walk around the space of my building, my company, whatever it is, whether it's a ghost kitchen, a full-blown restaurant, whatever it might be. I want to make sure that those touch points that we've defined and we are conscious of and aware of each of those gets accomplished.
Well, and I think that brings up an interesting point. Restaurants are incredibly diverse. They have incredibly diverse touch points. And in the last decade, we have had a new SaaS platform that's cropped up for each of these unique touch points. And now you find yourself in a world where you're swimming in a sea of $50 and $100 subscriptions that are becoming unwieldy. It's this weird, I think you've called about the race to the bottom. So we've got this where we're now swimming in optionality. There's tons of different technology.
Yep, there are.
It's hard to prioritize it. It's hard to manage it. How do you choose the right ones? And what should the technology companies be doing different so that we're not in a place where we're drowning in all of these just single point solutions?
Right. Well, what I'm reminded of is similar to the world of not-for-profits. So I want to feed hungry kids and make sure that they have nutrition. And so I've got a nonprofit, you've got a nonprofit, 3 other people have 501c3s, 3Cs. And instead of collaborating to put all of our tools together, we compete and go, oh, well, no, our version is better. Well, no, I'm really, right? We get our egos caught up And instead of aligning and integrating resources, we fight in the name of capitalism or uniqueness or I'm better, ego, whatever. And we end up, now you're making me interview 7 different companies to find one solution. And most of them fail miserably, usually in the same ways, because they're actually tracking the wrong information, in my opinion. So it's a race. That's where the term race to the bottom shows up.
Well, I'll say this. I actually think it's not exactly that. I don't think it's as much ego as you think. I think it's much like a restaurant.
Ooh, say more.
They have, let's say, a kid's meal and they don't have chicken fingers. And every customer walks in and says, we want chicken fingers.
We want chicken fingers.
Add chicken fingers. Sure. I can't tell you how many times it's like, hey, ClearCox, we'd like you to add an inventory module. It's like, okay, well, that's somebody else's lane. But the customers keep asking for it because they want it all in one place. And when you have every customer asking you to expand your horizon, you kind of look at it from a product feedback standpoint and say, okay, well, that's what our customers want. So we're going to provide, the equivalent of chicken fingers. And everyone's doing that with every platform. So they just naturally grow. I think that a lot of tech companies would like to stay in their lane, right? But they often just get the opposite feedback.
Well, maybe, but I would actually say I've had the alternative experience of, so being a systems guy, but not a tech guy necessarily. I can't tell you how many tech companies I've called and said, hey, we've got actually a way to do what you're doing that is 2 degrees different, but provides 6 times more results. And you go, no, we are committed to this lane. We're in the weeds with it. And or not in the weeds. We're in deep. We're committed. And we're not going to expand. Call us back in 2 years, right? And realizing, okay, well, you're developing a cool thing, and I love your clear line of thought. However, you're missing, in that clarity, you're missing X. The flip side of that is, as an operator, I bring on 6 different apps to accomplish the one thing I wanted to accomplish. And worst case, they don't work together. They don't integrate. So now we're back to, even though we've got all this tech stack, we're doing stuff with spreadsheets or back to almost manual construction, even though we've got all this tech. It's
simpler.
Bizarre
it's
thing.
simpler. Technology's gotten so complicated that it's like, you know what I can control? I can control an Excel spreadsheet. I know it's not great, but I can control it. I understand it.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
So you consult with all of these different brands. You've seen it all. I know that the industry has really typically a sub 10%, EBITDA margin. Sounds like a lot of the brands you work with, you guys average more like a 20%. What do you do differently that allows your restaurants to live in a world of sustainable profits and growth?
We look at prime costs daily, accrued to the week, accrued to the period, accrued to the quarter, accrued to the year, always against budget and against pennies and percentages to 0.1%. So we look every single day against the concept of a declining budget, but more so a checkbook. So depending on where our sales are going, sales up, the budget goes up, sales down, the budget goes down. Ideal inventory. And then same thing with labor, same thing with any prime cost. That's first. And
but
second,
why do you look at that? Why are you looking at that every day? What's that do?
It keeps money in the bank in the pocket instead of on the shelves or walking out the back door or going in the trash can. So it's, in essence, so here's a concept. Regardless of the restaurant segment or concept, we are as much a manufacturing entity as we are a retail experiential company. So run the manufacturing like a manufacturing plant and celebrate excellence to the basis point and to the 0.1%, and turn inventory. And then from the guest experience, everything's yes. What's your question?
So Jamie Coulter, the man behind Lone Star Steakhouse back in the day, was a friend, and he gave me a book. It was called Managing by Harold Green. This is a book from the 50s, from forever ago. And he said, Matt, there is timeless wisdom in this. Read it. And there was a line in the book that always stood out to me. And effectively it said something like, you should read the numbers every day. And they may not make sense, but read your numbers every day. And once you continue to read those numbers every day, eventually you'll be able to see through those numbers and you'll be able to understand your business and what's going on. And it was just this idea of it may look like numbers, but eventually it becomes poetry. It becomes a story where you're able to see through them.
The short answer to that is yes, 100%. The really fun part of business math in the restaurant business is it's arithmetic. It's not algebra. It's not trigonometry. It's arithmetic. It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And so really simple concepts work. And on average, so for example, on average, any given restaurant, doesn't matter what the concept is, a restaurant doing $1.5 million a year on average, in our experience, will be sitting on typically $27,000 to $28,000 of inventory. They could be running that $1.5 million on $5,000 of inventory. They are sitting on $23,000 of cash that could be in the bank any given day. And instead, it's sitting on the shelves. That is more typical than I can tell you. I mean, it is a reality. If it's a $3 million restaurant, they've typically got 40, 50 grand in inventory, and they could be sitting on 10,000.
Yeah, but two of your points are in conflict in some ways. And it's a conflict that I have as well. And that is, how much of it is about the numbers, the arithmetic, the prime costs? Am I managing downward sales? Am I growing? Versus what's the pitch tonight?
Those are equal balls to be juggled on a daily basis. So here's another thing that we do at Miick. We'll use communication tools and teach people to coach to the positive, give feedback to guests, first approach, second approach, third approach, whatever it might be, final approach, here's your check, change, goodbye, thank you. That is because we look at behavior-based training. Behaviors are as measurable as prime costs. So I can literally manage heart in as fine-tuned a way as I can my numbers and my products.
I want to hear how you go about doing that. I know that I just got back from the QSR Summit in Chicago, and Troy Hooper was on stage. And one of the things he said was exactly what you said, except the way they went about it is they have a secret shopper program that literally sends in customers basically that fill out a survey, and they send like one or two of them in a week. Like it's a constant stream, and they rate all these different variables, and apparently like there's data scientists on the back end that kind of normalize it all, but you're able to see, are we improving or going down or up? And it's so consistent that it's not like a single point in time. You got a bad visit. But I understand that you've got some things that you're doing with the leadership labs. Like, walk me through how you're going about quantifying the qualitative.
So what ends up happening again is, rather than a mystery shopper twice a week, think of a manager, think of a teammate, not even managers, team members that are coaching each other and celebrating every walk by with great eye contact, great smile. Oh my God, thank you for helping me with pre-bus. Oh my God, thanks for picking up the check on 24, right? We're coaching each other in real time to the positive rather than hand slapping negative performance. You didn't do this. So the feedback, instead of a 360 annual feedback or semi-annual, every 6 months we give you a 360, we're literally giving what we call performance feedback every shift constantly. We have this
these are self-perpetuating cycles, right? When somebody says 100%. Something negative, you get more negative, and you go through the self-perpetuating negativity cycle. We've all been there. We've also all been there on a team where you're doing great and the positivity is contagious, and we keep pushing each other to be more positive. I get that. I mean, like, you're there trying to start the positivity cycle.
Right. And so, for instance, and this is classic, managers, if a manager is smiling during the shift, the team will smile. The second the manager stops smiling, within 10 minutes, nobody's got a smile on their face. And come up and walk up to the manager and go, hey, I love that you just put the smile back on your face. So I'm not going to say, hey, you're not smiling. I'm going to wait until I see a smile again. I go, that was a great grin. It's good to see the smile back on your face. He goes, oh, I wasn't smiling. Oh, I'm just busy. I've got lots on my mind. I went, well, have lots on your mind with a smile.
Well, and by the way, I'm pretty good at this point. I think most people that have been in the industry of being able to pick out who the manager is within a couple of minutes of entering a location, and very rarely are they smiling. It's not usually the happiest person in the room. It's usually the serious person that's like looking around, right? That's, kind of head on a swivel.
So in a change effort or a growth effort, with the awareness that we're talking about, Matt, from all of this whole dialogue we've had, leaders want to improve. Most team members want to do a good job. It's very rare that you'll hear a staff member, hourly worker go, God, I can't wait to go to work today and screw up, right? I mean, that doesn't happen.
That's Jason Berkowitz's line that I totally have commandeered. It's a job where you basically put the key in the door in the morning and just wait for that sucker punch to the gut, right? That inevitable thing to fall apart. There's so many curveballs. I want to go back to the smiling thing, because it was an elegant point that you kind of got into, and that is the fact that, the people that are great at reading numbers, that can read the prime costs every day and look at the metrics, are often not the people that want to sit in the lobby and smile and talk to people and build them up. I've always had this fundamental, feeling that if we can get, we're never going to get the machines, to handle this, to be the smiling people, but they can handle the metrics. How do we let machines manage the metrics? And how do we let the people that are great at people, be in those roles? And I do think that, it's a right brain, left brain. And the more we can bring management up and equip them with the automation on the metric side so that we can self-select for people to be, the manager, like that's a really, really good start.
I would agree with you, and that would be a best use of tech. There, not a doubt. And at the same time, where I was headed with the point was somehow you take this person that's been the best server or the best cook or the best bartender or the best host, and we make them the manager. And somehow in our world, in our culture, the greater American or Western culture, the second I get a badge that says manager, I become a cop. And cops find stuff wrong instead of coaching what's right and what's effective. So the opportunity is that, I think, is how do we, so the most effort in a change effort or growth effort in my whole career is typically with the managers to redesign their own picture of themselves, that they can actually be more successful by coaching, finding stuff, seeing stuff that's being done well, and building on it. Now, to your point about numbers and people, there's an interesting irony here as well, is if we are looking at prime cost daily or check averages by the hour or rings by the hour, whatever it might be, I can go, hey, I can either go, Jesus, we suck, we're not hitting our margin, you guys, so get out there and sell. Or I could say, hey, we're within 0.2 of a point of our target tonight, you guys, way to go, keep it up, rockin'. Well, which one of those is going to inspire the team to go out and actually, with a smile, remember that we want you to walk out of here with a dessert, even if it's shared at the table instead of one each, right? Is we just bumped the check average by $4 because our desserts are so good, you cannot leave without having the key lime pie, right? Or whatever it might be.
Rudy, to wrap this up, what gives you hope about the future of the industry we love?
There are three things. One is people have to eat. Two is I desperately believe, I emphatically believe, even post-pandemic and post just where in the chaos of the world, people want contact and connection more than they want isolation. We are a tribal species. And we have a business that connects. I also think that we work in one of the most intriguing, fun, certainly complex, but one of the coolest industries there is, because we take all of these high touch and high tech and high production tools and integrate them all. So I get to be the most well-rounded human being possible in the world of work. And I get to be a restorer of soul when it's done right. How?
It's as long as humans still have souls and we're not cyborgs, they're always going to need to be restored. Right? And therefore, there's always going to need to be a need for restaurants.
And to your point, man, Jimmy John's sandwich. I take a bite of that thing and I just get a big smile on my face. Or I go to a $300 lunch and the one bite or the way my kids treated is heaven. Or it's something in between, right? The best pizza of my life. And it's a gift. And we provide people this gift. Or we can look at it as a dead-end job. And what a waste, right? Because it's anything but a dead-end job and a dead-end career. It's magical. and the money shows up in buckets when we do it right.
Well, Rudy, I appreciate you coming on. Let's keep the magic alive.
Dude, you're the best.